Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get started. My name is Graham Lawler. I am the founder of Ultralight Startups, and I'll be. Does that just go off? I will be your host tonight. Yeah, just turn that off, I think. So, welcome to Future Energy. This is the fourth Future Energy pitch event that we've produced, our last of 2012. So glad you could all make it. I'd like to introduce my co-host here tonight, Mary Howard. It's our first time here at Ultralight Startups. Mary Howard is the founder and principal of Design Technologies, a company which trains high-potential entrepreneurs in business, technology, and design. Design Technologies is a coach for SBIR Phase 1 award winners for NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab, and an entrepreneur in residence at NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, and NJIT. Design Technologies also runs a training program for NJ's Tech Launch Accelerator for mobile startups. And Mary is on the board of the MIT Enterprise Forum of New York City chapter, and she's excited to be part of tonight's event.
Thank you. It's nice to see so many people here and some familiar faces as well. There's a fabulous group of people that Graham's got together, and I look forward to working with him tonight and introduce them to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary. So, we want to talk about the event format?
So here's the way this will work tonight. For the people who have not been to an Ultralight startup event, this is really rapid fire timing here. We'll spend 3 minutes after going through introductions in startup pitches by 4 companies. We'll take a break, and then we'll have 4 more companies. After the startup companies provide their pitches for 3 minutes, there's going to be 3 minutes of questions and answers by our panel here. And then after that, there will be a feedback session by the panel to the entrepreneurs about their startups and what they would do to answer the question, if you were in their shoes, what would you suggest they do right now? Okay, so it's very practical kind of feedback. So we'll go through 4 with the 3, the pitch, the questions, and the feedback, and then we'll take a little break, and then we'll do the next 4. And then there will be an opportunity for you and the audience to give feedback and to vote on the entrepreneur team that you like the best, and also to the panelists that you find most helpful in providing feedback. So we'll provide you the Twitter handles for those, and then after that, which should be finishing about 8:30, we will be heading down the street to relax a little bit, get to know each other, and talk, have a drink, and that's at Murphy and Gonzalez. So we look forward to your continuing the evening after we leave here, down the street.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mary. So now I'd like to introduce our panel. So starting to my far right, we'll start with Andrew Garman. So just tell us a little bit about your organization and the most recent clean tech investment that you've made and why you're so excited about it. And the microphone is on the table right there.
How is that? Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Okay. My name is Andy Garman, and my firm is called New Venture Partners. We're based in New Jersey, which is the state just on the other side of the Hudson, if you haven't heard of it. And we have offices in Europe and the Bay Area as well. We manage about $800 million, and we're somewhat known for, in a prior incarnation, being the venture arm of Bell Labs, which explains why we're in New Jersey. My focus for the last few years has been on early stage energy investing. The most recent deal that I closed was yesterday. And I'm very excited about this because it's a new technology for turbine engines These turbine engines are capable of burning both natural gas and diesel oil at efficiencies which are very disruptive relative to the state of the art, and can be applied both to stationary applications, for example, running computer data centers, as well as to mobile applications, for example, a dual fuel powered long haul truck that can run on both diesel and natural gas.
That's great. What's the name of the company?
And the company's name is ICR Tech.
That's very catchy.
Yes. Run and founded by engineers, so we'll be talking about branding issues soon.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Andy. So Arrun, tell us about your organization.
Hi, Arrun Kapoor with SJF Ventures. We're a growth equity fund focused largely on, we are now steering away from the word clean tech a little bit and using the word resource efficiency and sustainability. But we've been doing the same thing for the last 13 years. We're in our third fund now. We look for growth stage businesses, typically 1 to 20 million in sales. We do not do early stage investing. Capital efficient, so businesses that are looking to raise anywhere from 500,000 up to 10 million to scale to profitability. Some of our companies have taken a bit more capital for strategic reasons, but the business model has to work with a modest amount of capital to get to profitability. So that makes us quite different than a lot of funds in the clean tech or resource efficiency space. The most recent, we're headquartered in Durham, North Carolina. I'm the New York guy, and we have a partner out in San Francisco as well. The most recent deal we did was a company called BioSurplus. We've done a lot in material reuse and recycling. So this is reuse of biomedical equipment. A lot of biotech startups get funded. Lots of high-value electronic equipment is bought. The drug or the breakthrough works or doesn't work. And then you've got all this high-value equipment, and it's either needs to be recycled down or resold, which is higher margin than the recycling piece. But we've done, I think, about 10 deals across the three funds in that vertical, so we're quite excited by it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Arrun. So Jim LoGerfo.
I'm Jim LoGerfo with Earthrise Capital. We're a New York-based venture fund. We are reasonably stage agnostic, tend toward early stage, but we'll go at whatever point makes sense. My partner and I have been involved in green technology investing for a few years. So we have our preferred areas. Primarily, we're looking for deals that make sense to us. What makes sense to us, by and large, often doesn't seem to make sense to standard issue venture funds. That's okay with us. Our most recent deal, we tend to invest geographically. Our investments so far have been Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, but it doesn't have to be that way. And our last investment was in a Boston area company called Cool Chip Technologies, which is commercializing basically a better fan for laptops and servers and electronic equipment. Why would I be excited about it? Just put your laptop in your lap for about 10 minutes and you know why.
Thanks, Jim. Willem?
So my name is Willem Rensink. I'm based Shell, particularly in our GameChanger team. And as the name suggests, we like people that can change the game, not only for Shell, but maybe in the broader sense. So we look, compared to the other panelists, we look at really early stage revolutionary ideas, and typically things that don't make a lot of sense except for the person that actually invented it. And there we try to build up a proof of concept and then align it with the Shell business and help that idea grow, and then can be relevant for Shell or can grow the company independently of us.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Do you want to talk about a recent investment?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so my last project actually was a energy storage project that we were quite excited about. Actually, it's a deal came around from one of the audience in an earlier event. And the interesting thing about this is it's an offshore play, so that's why we're interested in it, because Shell is an offshore company, as we'll have a lot of experience activity. So those types of synergies are the ones that tend to be more attractive for us.
Okay. Thank you, Willem. So, Mary, do you want to talk about the format of the pitches?
So we are going to be having, excuse me, startup pitches from 4 companies. The entrepreneurs will be taking 3 minutes apiece, and then there'll be, following that, Q&A from the panel and the audience. Okay, so another 3 minutes there. We'll move it along, okay? So there may be more questions that you want to ask afterward. Please hold on to them. There's going to be lots of opportunity at the break and then at the end to, so if we don't get to you, please, save your questions and come and talk with people afterward. And we will be asking the panel then for feedback to the entrepreneurs. And we will be seeking advice from panelists who are most comfortable with the technology that's being presented. So about 10 minutes apiece, right, for each of the companies. And then we'll take a break after the first 4, okay? And then keep track yourself of what you think about the different ventures. And we have an opportunity. We're interested in hearing your feedback. So let us know which startup you think is most interesting, appealing, likely to be successful. This is the handle, pound ultralights plus startups, and then the panelist right here. So we look forward to that, and we'll do a little bit of math magic at the end and let you know who ends up at the top.
Okay, thanks, Mary. So you guys can vote, throughout the entire contest. If you see somebody up here that you like, either a presenter or one of the panelists, you just send a tweet with the hashtag ultralight and the Twitter handle of that person, and that counts as a vote in favor of that person. So the startups that get the most votes win some prizes. Cleantech Open, for those of you who don't know, that's the largest cleantech incubator in the country. So you get a free application to the Cleantech Open Northeast. You can also get a presentation to Agrion, which is an organization of corporate sustainability officers. And you get a first-round interview at Surge Accelerator, which is an energy-focused software accelerator in Houston. And the panel, the winner of our illustrious panel award, wins bragging rights to say that they're the best panelists. So I would like to thank a few people just before we get into the first pitch. First, Willem Rensink and Shell's GameChanger group for sponsoring this. Mike Shimazu of NYSERDA. I don't know if Mike is here right now, but Mary can represent NYSERDA, as she is an entrepreneur in residence there. We have a series of community partners this time that helped find all the great startups that you're going to see here. So Seth Mulligan of Clean Tech Center in Syracuse, Martin Cass-Stevens of Directed Energy, David Hamilton of CEBIP, Micah Koch of NYU Acre, Sam Ticknor of Uvaney, and Nick Karras of iClean. Some of these people might be here today. Media partners that helped us promote this event and bring you all into the room. Ali Adler of Cleantech Open, J.E. Emmingham and Brian Blauvelt of Energy Infotech, Michael Conti of Young Professionals in Energy, Angelique Mercurio, who I have seen here, Energy Solutions Forum, Juan Figuera of Green Tech NYC, and Jacob Bleiberg of the NYU Stern Energy Club. Is Jacob here right now? You want to come up and talk about Stern Energy Club?
Thanks, Graham, and thank you everybody for attending today. We're really excited to have everyone here at NYU Stern. The Stern Energy Club has been in existence for 2 years. This is our second year as a full standing energy club here at NYU Stern. So we're excited to grow our presence within the NYU energy community. And if you guys would like to reach out to us, I'll be here, and Shuva and Josh right next to him over here in the second row as well. You can just kind of come up to us, and we'd be glad to talk to everyone. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jacob. And I would like to thank all the presenters that traveled from quite a distance to most of them to come here and present today. Vermont and Maryland and New Hampshire and long distances. So thank you very much for taking the effort. And I'd like to thank Mary Howard, our first time here at Ultralight and Future Energy. And then the last thing before I get started, the exits are up over there and in the back in case you need to use them at any point in time. So our first...
Are there any other seats here because of people still coming in?
There are. There's a seat right there. There's a seat right there. There is a seat... Where else? There's 2 seats. Grab them while they're hot. Pardon me? Cell phones? Yeah, it's a good idea to turn your cell phone off, except if you're tweeting on it. In that case, you should keep it on. So our first presenter of the evening is Alan, I believe. Is that correct? Alan Ray of Re-Nuble. who's going to have 3 minutes. Mary's going to time it. So here is your microphone. There you go. And you can stand right about over there.
Okay.
I'll control the slides for you.
Good, okay. We good to go? Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you today. I'm going to be talking about Renew, and Renew stands for Rare Earths, Not Electronic Waste. What we're looking at is recycling rare earths from electronic waste and other industrial wastes. Rare earths are critical to you getting here today. In automobiles, they're critical in terms of your cell phone and being able to find your way here and being able to tweet. Jet engines, they're also found in gas turbines, every hard drive, every LED. 97% of them come from China. And mining creates major environmental issues. They're always found with radioactive elements. Production and disposal fees, amounts you can see here, and you can see that almost none of it is recycled right now. And what we've done is developed a process to recycle these products in a simple and ecologically sound way. So what we're doing is separating the most valuable rare earths from US electronic and industrial waste, creating a domestic source, and we can also recycle the reagents and the other ingredients. And it's cleaner, lower cost than separation from ores. There's no existing rare earth infrastructure for recycling. And we're looking to partner with industry groups such as INEMI, users such as IBM, Western Digital. By the way, hard drive production is the highest it's ever been because that iPad that you have doesn't have a hard drive, but the server farm that it's accessing has a lot of hard drives. Processors and waste collectors and generators. Next slide. So what's the perspective? We're going to purify these and send them back to the source. They're high value materials, so you're looking at a significant revenue opportunity. We've secured a $750,000 bank loan. We're optimistic that we're going to get a $1 million consolidated funding grant from New York State, and we're seeking $3 million at the moment to set up a plant. We have a process, we have a building identified, we're ready to go. So our economic advantage is our partnerships and relationships. What we're really looking to do for our customers is develop a stable, low-cost domestic supply. And the kicker in this is China is going to be a net importer of rare earths in 2015. That's going to be a real problem. Final picture. These are ceramic capacitors. 1 trillion of these are made every year. They're critical to everything in electronics. About 1/3 of them use neodymium titanate. And this is the waste. And this is where we separate it into barium, neodymium, and titanium. Thank you.
Thanks, Al. So jump in whenever you like with questions, and use the mic if you can, so everybody can hear.
Yeah, could you just elaborate a little bit on your cost structure, taking into account the entire cost of acquiring whatever it is you acquire in terms of equipment, disassembling it, extracting it, and then applying your process?
Yes, for the initial plant, we're looking at probably pretty modest amount of investment because it's basically just chemical processing. What's different is the way the chemical processing is applied. The raw materials at the moment, the magnets, etc., they're being thrown away. So our cost of raw materials is relatively low. The cost of reagents is low. It takes a fair amount of expertise in order to produce the materials at the right kind of yields.
How do you plan to, what's the plan to acquire PCs or cell phones or recyclable goods or something in a cost-effective way to assemble them? And
we are not going to be doing the disassembling. We're working with the people that do the disassembling. So, for example, there are industrial wastes from jet engines where we have a source and a relationship that we can get a supply of those raw materials. We can get a supply of raw materials from the capacitor industry. We can get a supply of magnets from dismantled hard drives. So the idea is you have to develop the relationships because we don't want to get into the recycling business in terms of dismantling and collecting and that kind of thing.
Arrun, with your background, yeah, we're interested to hear.
Sure. And do you have the relationships already for that feedstock or the parts, the disassembled parts?
Yes. In fact, we have an enterprise hard drive company that said as soon as we want 100,000 hard drive magnets, they'll send them to us like that.
And is the business model then, it's not to license the technology, it's actually to build out your own plant to
Right.
do
The first opportunity is to build out the plant, and we foresee these being regional. So we can see that there would be this one would be for the East Coast. We would foresee that there could be another one on the West Coast, Europe, China, Japan, and those may in the future be licensing deals, or the cash generation may be enough to fund these ourselves.
And has there been any pilot testing done at this point?
Yes, we've got. In fact, in one of our incubators, we have processed hundreds of pounds of these materials.
It would be valuable if you'd provide us with the sense of capital input relative to revenue output. So $10 million buys you a plant that processes X number of tons per year, equating revenue of blah, blah, blah.
Right. The basic assumption is you saw the prices of the rare earths. We're assuming that an average price of what we sell will be $20 a kilo, which is way below those numbers there, because in some cases we'll be selling intermediates, in some cases we'll be selling the co-products. So the plant that we're looking at is capable of processing 300 tons at $20 a kilo, so $20,000 a ton. And in year 4 and 5, we're looking to take it up to 1,000 tons by self-funded expansion through the cash that's generated.
So if you get those 100,000 hard disks,
How much capital is required to build this plant?
The initial plant, we're talking about 4.75 million to actually build the plant and do the working capital. The actual plant itself is about $2 million of that.
so if you get those 100,000 hard disks, how long does that plant, or how long does that feed your plant?
That would actually not be very long. The 100,000 hard drives would be probably a couple of months.
So you need a lot, actually, to
Yeah,
feed
you
the
do.
plant.
You do.
Is there any regulatory, you mentioned it's a chemical process, are there any specific regular issues around hazardous chemicals around recovery process?
We've not found any issues. The chemicals that we're using are relatively benign, and the major reagents are recycled in the loop.
And so what's sort of covered by the 2 key patents that you mentioned?
Basically, what's covered in the key patents is the chemistry and how the particular types of materials, the particular types of wastes that are processed.
So is that defensible eventually? Is that granted?
Well, it's again a process patent is always a challenge. So what we're looking at doing is having a patent that's going to cover the general principle, but a lot of the actual knowledge into what goes into the separation and the preparation of saleable products is going to be know-how.
Willem, can we time goes so fast, okay? And ultralight startup time is very quick. Andrew, can we ask if you have some advice, maybe 45 seconds of advice to give to Renew? Thank you.
Well, one specific thing I could think of, which may be obvious to you, I know that there's been, 10 or 15 years at least worth of work and DOE gone on in processing of these materials, and what's kept the DOE from getting to the point of being economically viable with their processes, and why you differentiate yourselves from the Ames process.
Arrun, can you share some insights or feedback?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to pack all this information into 3 minutes. So people were suggesting all this other stuff, and yet you're getting the buzzer at 3. But I think there is a question sort of just on the unit economics of the plant, the capital needs of the business. And as an investor, if you're looking at a company, you want to know sort of what's the capital needed now, what's the capital needed in 12 months and 24 months to scale up, and how does that look going out? So seeing some color on that, I think, would be helpful, which is, I think, the question that Jim touched on.
Right.
Jim, do you have, to be specific, actionable advice to give Alan?
What would you do if you were him?
If you were him, right now.
That's what we're looking for.
You need money, so you need an effective pitch.
Right.
So what I'm saying, what all of us are saying, are things that you need to incorporate into a pitch. You couldn't do it in 3 minutes. You're forgiven. But in a more extended format, in your 20-slide deck, whatever, You'll want to address competitive landscape, other
Yes.
technical efforts at doing what you're doing. You'll want to address supply questions of more specificity, plant economics, and you have strategy questions that are interesting and cut both ways. Do you co-locate with one of his companies, one of his hard, box recycling companies, and just have in-house your supply, which would be terrific, except that they turn around after 6 months and say they're making too much money, so we're going to charge you 3 times X for the supply of raw materials.
Naturally.
And and where are you going to go? Because now you
Yep.
got your assets in their house. So
Yep.
yikes, nothing's easy. They're going to raise prices on you. You can't. This happens a lot in biomass. They say, you tell me my input is free. I'm recycling garbage, and that's great for a little while. And then people get smart and say, we're going to charge you for garbage.
Right.
Thank you, Jim.
Right.
No, I agree. I think you see a lot of recycling channels appearing because people know that the value sits there, especially if you claim to have a simple product. So get a sense for how much you truly need and what it is you can put in the process, I think is going to be key to convince people, is there enough there, or how much do you invest upstream to really attract the resource? You're saying, yeah, I can't recycle hard disk, but the magnets, well, somebody needs to take that magnet out of that hard disk. So really understanding, is that volume there, and is that, or do you need to build up a whole supply chain which adds your cost and then eats in your margin in the end?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Willem, and thanks, Alan.
And thank you to the panel. That's tremendous feedback. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Round of applause. So if you would like to vote for Alan Ray and Re-Nuble as your favorite panelist or favorite presenter here today, send a tweet with #ultralight and @Re-Nuble, R-E-N-E-W. Also, be sure to vote for your favorite panelists for their insightful advice and feedback. Next up, we have Paul Schwartz of ThermoLift, and on deck, if James Shomar of Solstice Power can make his way down towards the front. Okay, that's fine, if you're right there. Yeah, that's perfect. So we've got a mic for you. Oh,
There's a chair right here.
there's one right here, and there's some in the back. Yeah, I'll pull them out. Yeah, I'll pull them out. So go ahead, Alan, when you're ready. Or Paul, I should say.
You have my slide deck then?
That's probably important. There we go.
That's slide 2. Okay, good. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Schwartz. I'm the president and CEO of a company called ThermoLift. ThermoLift is developing what we call the ultimate heat pump. This is an air conditioning system, a heating system, and a hot water system in one device. Natural gas is going to be our fuel. However, we are fuel agnostic. We're a thermally driven heat pump. And we're expecting a 50% reduction in the cost of operating a heating and cooling environment for a residential and a commercial building to become the most effective and efficient HVAC system available. So there's this machine here, you see. And this was built in 1991 at a company called Busch Energy in Europe. It was designed and built and tested for 6,500 hours, and it never failed. And what it did is it burned 1 unit of fuel and produced 1.4 to 1.6 units of heat energy that was brought into the building envelope. Now, what we've done, you can push the button for a second. What we've done is we redesigned that mechanically based system into an electronically controlled system with new heat exchangers, new electronic controls, and an emissions-free, nitrous oxide-free gas burner. And that's done by Professor Peter Hofbauer, who for 20 years was the head of engine and powertrain development at Volkswagen. He won the World Economic Forum Award for Innovation in 2012, the Popular Science and Popular Mechanics Awards for Innovation in 2011 for a company we both formed together and started called Echo Motors that's funded by Vinod Khosla and Bill Gates. In addition to 2 other professors of thermodynamics, Dr. Klaus Heikrid and Hans Kuhl, who built that original machine in 1991. And then we have, I have to include Michael Donner, who was with Wilson Sonsini, Goodrich & Rosati, one of the premier law firms and IP intellectual property firms in the United States. He's one of our strongest proponents and allies. Next slide. So when you look at the marketplace, you see something that's absolutely enormous. You see that there are 34 million homes in the United States in cold climates. 24 million homes are connected to natural gas, and 10 million have systems that are over 20 years old. That's a $46 billion market. of retrofits, of which we perfectly fit into, a very active annual market. There's a significant economic advantage for the implementation of our technology, which is a clean technology, but it's an efficient technology. It's $4,500. The incremental additional cost of our system versus state-of-the-art technology is nominal. It gets paid back in less than 2 years. And over the 20-year ownership of this technology, a consumer is going to save over $10,000 by choosing something that's more green than it was before. Our path to market is we recognize very, very importantly that strategic partners are critical for brand recognition, are critical for installation capability, customers' choice of what product to purchase, warranty, distribution, and serviceability. And we're looking for our first commercial sales in 2016. Now, when you go about bringing a technology to market, you want to get as much validation and support as you can.
Okay, that's time.
Thank you, Paul. So maybe Willem, we could start with you and ask you
So
for some feedback questions.
is your initial customer, is that a residential market or commercial, or what type of scale are you of the heat pump are you targeting?
Our initial market is residential because we want to be single focused on a single product.
And what's your manufacturing strategy?
Our manufacturing strategy is to build prototype technology and then partner for large-scale manufacturing.
When you described a 2-year payback, is that relative to is it that your product is at a cost premium to, or price premium to whatever people, the AC plus blah, 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 that people buy themselves?
My pricing is against a heating system. The other incremental benefits will come along with air conditioning and hot water. I'm pricing against the heating system. So it's an incremental additional cost to a heating system, and the payback on the heating system benefit is less than 2 years.
It's not an easy thing to sell energy efficiency to residential market. I'll just note that as a challenge. Yeah.
And speaking of going to residential, so what's sort of the go-to-market? The electricians, contractors are not necessarily the most progressive adopters of early stage, cutting edge technology. What's your thought on how you get them to buy into this technology and this approach versus the more traditional?
You have to have large partners like National Grid. Bob Cattell is the former chairman of National Grid and is one of our largest proponents. He's with us in the audience today. National Grid has expressed interest in introducing it to their customers. They have 20 million customers. Another company on Long Island is called Petro, Home Heating System Company. They have 300 to 400,000 customers. They recognize the immediate need for this product in the marketplace.
Are there local or federal or state energy efficiency rebates that can be applied to something like this?
Most environmental technologies going to residential communities are receiving rebates, and we could probably qualify for them, but we don't need them to be economically viable. Customers going to save over $10,000 over the life of the product and receive great benefits from its use.
And so the cost is what is the cost again? $4,500?
$4,500.
And what's the cost versus a traditional unit?
Traditional unit for a high efficiency gas burner system is about $3,800.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish we had time to go into technology here. I know we don't, but you know, most heat pumps operate at a coefficient of performance of 3 or 4, much higher than what you're talking about here. And most heat pumps don't have a burner in them, so there's something strange going on that I'm not following it.
Most heat pumps are electrically driven.
Yeah.
Electrically driven heat pumps have a higher coefficient of performance,
Yeah.
but they don't work in cold climates. They don't work as heating systems. As air conditioning systems, the coefficient of performance works off of electricity, which is their input.
Yeah.
But electricity, when generated, is only 35% efficient. Then when you go through the wire, only winds up to be 28% when it gets to the house. When you use natural gas as your cooling system, and a coefficient of performance between 1.4 and 1.6 is as a heating system. As temperatures go up, RCOP goes over 2.
Yeah, but when there's an existing heat pump market, which is somewhat attractive and growing, and they all talk about coefficient of performances which are double yours, you don't want to position yourself that way, right? Or you get into an explanation that residential customers just won't understand.
Residential customers will understand we're the most efficient heating and air conditioning system.
Maybe we can move on to some feedback, some actionable advice. What would you suggest, Andrew?
What would you do if you were Paul?
Well, I wouldn't go after the residential market. I don't think. I think it's too tough. It's too crowded. It's too hard to distribute to. It's too hard for consumers to understand the benefits. I think the marketing pitch will be terribly hard. I would look for residential or industrial or commercial, industrial or commercial applications that are particular niches where your unusual technology really has a distinct advantage.
That's perfect feedback. Thank you, Andrew. Arrun?
Everybody note that for later.
I'm going to vote for you right now.
I was going to say the same thing, so my tweet is right there. No, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, distribution to a residential market is very difficult. It's very diffuse, and whereas if you go to industrial or commercial and you can sell direct to folks that have a more sophisticated understanding of kind of how to look at these issues, I think it's an easier sell. And just it's not. Oftentimes, I think contractors, electricians, whomever it is that you're going to be selling to, are going to be doing the install, the recommendation for a residential homeowner. It's not always a rational decision-making purchase. It's kind of status quo. It's business as usual. I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm not going to mess around with anything new. And I think some of these industrial commercial buyers might be more sophisticated in thinking about the next technology.
For distribution partners, obviously natural gas companies. He has nat gas. Hess, Brooklyn Gas, which I guess is
Brooklyn Union Gas?
That grid. Yep. Thank you. You said residential and commercial markets. You've shown us one unit. Presumably,
it's scalable.
And we can believe in the performance across unit size. There's some scaling relationship between size and coefficient performance.
And one other thing we've seen with some companies is applying sort of a shared savings model. I don't know if that's something you're thinking about, but getting someone basically to pay for the unit, and you figure out what the baseline is of how much they've been paying for energy and any savings. You sort of take a recurring revenue, but that also, if there's no upfront costs associated with a retrofit, it can reduce the friction to adoption.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's complexities involved with that model, but it's one approach.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think for what you see for residential markets, you may need that because it's difficult to say whether the delta, although it exists, over the lifetime, it's still the out-of-pocket expense. I think in the end that matters. So another entry point to think about might be more sort of community housing or apartments where there's a single landlord that has multiple units, and for him that savings actually might be visible. And then get really a strong partner, get a good prototype, get really a distribution partner. Also, I think the European market might get you more traction residential with the right partners compared to the US for particular this type of technology, I think.
Like Bosch.
Okay, and that's time. Thank you very much, Willem, and thanks, Paul. So if you want to vote for Paul and ThermoLift as your favorite pitch tonight, you will send a tweet with #ultralight and @ThermoLift. And don't forget to vote for your favorite panelists, for whoever gave the most actionable advice, what they would do if they were in the presenter's shoes. And so up next we have James Shomar of Solstice Power, and I'm going to bring up the slides. And on deck we have Robert Lumley of KiteFarms. So let's see. Can everyone hear me? All good? Okay. Ready? Yep. Okay. Hello, thank you for coming. My name is James Shomar. I'm the CEO of Solstice Power LLC. Solstice is a solar energy provider. Our technology is called the Solstice Hybrid System. Now, the idea behind the hybrid system is pretty simple. We realize that the cost Speak right into the mic. Oh, can you not hear me? I'm sorry. Okay. We realize that the cost of installing solar power today is extremely expensive. So we decided to design the hybrid system from the ground up to reduce the overall cost of installing solar. We did that by looking at each cost component, from materials, manufacturing, shipping, installation, even engineering, to see how we could tweak the design to reduce the overall cost of installing solar. How the system works is that there's first a 10,000 magnification lens that concentrates the sunlight onto the solar cells. Those solar cells are what actually produces the electricity. By concentrating that light, we're able to reduce the size of the solar cells we need and provide more power at a reduced cost. Additionally, these solar cells are double the efficiency of what's currently available on the market. If you can double your efficiency, you reduce the size of the system you need by half and also cut your costs in half. With these cost-saving measures, in addition to others that we've integrated, we predict that we can produce a solar power system for around 1/3 the cost of our largest competitors.
System is also designed to be very versatile and scalable, so it can be customized to each individual customer's needs. It's also a hybrid system, which means that in addition to providing electricity, we capture the excess heat given off by that process and use it to power your hot water and space heating systems. You can go to the next slide. Our distribution model is called the Solstice Utility Plan. Rather than outright purchasing or even leasing a system, instead Solstice will install the system on the customer's property and charge them a low monthly utility bill based solely on the energy that they use. Unlike the utility companies right now, Solstice will have lower rates, fixed constant rates, and there's no transmission or demand charges. Adding those effects together, we estimate that a typical customer will save around $50,000 a year in energy costs. For this, because of this strategy, Solstice will position itself as an energy provider rather than a panel manufacturer. Our partners include O'Brien & Gear, which is a local engineering firm who will be helping us to develop the prototype, our field test, and manufacturing process. We estimate it's going to cost around $200,000 to develop our prototype and $1 million to develop our field test. Our target customers are those who will require 200 kilowatts or more in power. They include retail chains, commercial office buildings, industrial manufacturers, data centers, universities, and things of that sort. Our competitive advantage is that Solstice combines a unique and disruptive technology with an innovative business model that's convenient, requires no upfront costs, and is no risk to the customer. Our value proposition is that we provide consistent, inexpensive, reliable, customer-focused, and sustainable energy. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, James. All right. Thanks. So, questions? Anybody jump in?
Your market is limited. I mean, you didn't say anything about tracking, and you didn't say anything about direct versus.
This is just a question, so ask it in the form of a question.
Oh, okay.
Where are you going with this?
So
Where are you taking this? To what markets?
To what? Oh, so to particularly like to say a retail chain like a Target or a Walmart. If I could sign up for one store, they may be willing to expand to other stores, real estate companies, universities, that sort.
Where? In
Where?
what?
Oh,
yes.
particularly within the Northeast as of right now, and then expanding nationwide.
And how do you
Okay.
patents or IP around it? Well, sorry, the question. Do you have patents around it?
Not currently. I am working on that with O'Brien & Gear, who has a legal firm that they're going to be helping me to develop our patent process.
And how are you going to finance, if there's no upfront cost, you're going to be financing, I don't know if you caught that, but how are you going to finance the development, the production, and the installation of it if there's no upfront cost, and then you're just taking a PPA?
So essentially, it'll be a power purchase agreement where I'll enter into a contract with the customer and then take that to finance the actual installation of the system.
Okay.
So you mentioned you need a lens to concentrate the light on the XLR film. So what's the cost difference between the film and the lens, or what's the quality of the lens that you need, and how much cost are you saving with that?
Oh, with the lens versus having
Yes.
covered with solar cells.
Yeah.
So each of those cells, they're actually called a multi-junction cell. They're 40% efficient. And they're about $8 a piece, and they're about 5 millimeters by 5 millimeters. So covering an entire system with that would be extremely expensive. That lens is a silicon on glass Fresnel lens. Can concentrate up to 10,000. We have a supplier that I've already worked with who's going to develop that.
Is it sensitive to the direction of the sunlight? The amount of magnification?
There is some loss if you have a different direction as to where it is, but you get that pretty much with any kind of solar panel. So it's like a normal lens.
And so I assume that because you concentrate, you're going to have more heat on the panel. So have you done any type of modeling between the concentration effect, the amount of heat, and the amount of heat you can actually extract from the panel to make sure the panel keeps functioning?
Yeah, so that's why we developed the hybrid system, is to try and capture that heat. So because it's so concentrated, that allows us to have a better ability to capture that heat. We haven't done the actual physical calculation of how much we can get out of that. That'll come with our prototyping development.
We've had some good questions. Let's go right into feedback. And if you could say, if you are in the shoes of starting this right now, what would you want to be doing?
I want to be doing an incredibly conservative and realistic financial plan, because I've not only got to fund my own technology business, I've got to fund all my customers as well. And so I'd want to know that this could be done for you know, under a few $100 million and in a way that I could get to positive cash flow sometime in my lifetime.
Yeah, I like the business model of being able to finance it up front, but how are you actually going to fund it yourself? You said you take a PPA and I guess package that and then get it financed, but whether that is really plausible, I don't know. So I would kick the tires on that. And then also for the presentation, hybrid systems have not really taken off very well in the marketplace. It's usually sort of water or it's PV, electric. You haven't seen a lot of adoption on the hybrid system. So for the presentation, why are you different? Why is this different? And why have the other ones failed or not gotten mass adoption, I think would be helpful.
As I understand it, what you've described is essentially CPV, which you intend to take to the market in a low DNI region. If you know what these letters mean, that's terrific. If you don't know, you'll need to find out. But CPV is not an untrodden path, and the region that you've chosen for your market entry just makes no sense, honestly, based on what I understand of your technology.
So what would you do if you were James?
Position it.
Position it how? How would you position it?
Against how is this different from other CPV companies, and why is the Northeast an appropriate geographic for this technology when physics would dictate otherwise? But I may really misunderstand what it is that you have.
Okay.
Challenge with 3 minutes.
Great. Thanks, James.
I think the integration of, like mentioned, you're probably not the only one that's now trying to integrate some heat and solar. So knowing exactly how well, how much heat and what the quality of that heat is, and what you actually can do with it. Are you going to have a water heater, or is that not good enough, or you're not going to heat the water? So where it really integrates, and then really look at the overall complexity of the system. Are you still cost competitive? I think there's a number of companies now that provide these types of financing services. So you might want to look at a partnering strategy with them and getting sort of in their product portfolio rather than do it alone, everything, and get to a working prototype, sort of more of a garage style prototype, and see what really works and under what conditions it works. And see whether you can partner with some good modeling to understand the numbers and the sizes to back up some of these numbers.
This is great. Thank you very, very much. Wonderful advice. Robert Lumley?
And so to vote for James and Solstice Power as your favorite startup today, you'll send a tweet with #ultralight and @Solstice, just Solstice by itself. And don't forget to vote for your favorite panelists for their insightful advice. And here we have Robert and KiteFarms.
So I'm Robert Lumley with KiteFarms, and we are going to harvest the power of crosswind kite energy. And what that means, or what I like to have people do first, is visualize the guy at the park flying a stunt kite. When he flies that stunt kite, if the wind is going 15 miles an hour, he can get the kite going 90 miles an hour. That's 6 times. The power is proportional to the velocity cubed. So the actual power available is 200 times what would happen if the kite were just sitting there. So that's the power of crosswind kites. So what are we going to do? We're going to design flygens, flying generators. You mount the turbine on the kite, you swoop the kite through the air in figure eights or in circles, generate high speed, transmit the power down the tether, and put it on the grid. That's our plan. We've been working on proprietary flight algorithms, guidance, navigation, and control, how you fly the kite in an optimal path. Customized airframes to extract the power, and specialized electronics, avionics, IMUs, and power electronics. The advantage of this is lower cost, lower capital expenditure, there's no tower, lower operation and maintenance, because you can fix the thing when it's on the ground. Smaller space requirements, we should be able to generate more power in the same land area. Greater material efficiency, we're essentially using the tips of the wind turbine and a tether instead of the tower. And a lighter environmental impact. Up on the picture is a bird. We believe that our algorithm can actively avoid birds and also have a more attractive view plane. Slide. Our plan with this technology is to be a power producer. It's how we think we can bring this technology to market. You have to
1 minute.
You have to introduce the power in-house and operate in-house. So what we're going to do is develop a 50 kilowatt fly gen. Once we have that fly gen, and it will take us about 15 months to do that, and once we have that fly gen operational, our plan is to be a power producer. We will opportunistically acquire a rusty wind farm, something that may or may not be economical to operate anymore, and sell kilowatt hours. We'll have the existing infrastructure, all the grid connections, everything will be in place. We'll phase in the fly gens, operating on the periphery or as things need replacement. And the idea is to earn while learning. We'll have time in the air, and at that point we should have self-funding research and development.
Robert, thank you. Thank you.
One part I didn't get with the technology about how it works is it's tethered to the ground and then somehow it's automated and it moves. And what keeps it aloft? Is there a balloon of some sort that keeps it aloft, or?
Well, the question you're asking is what keeps an airplane aloft. The wind keeps it aloft. You know that a kite can fly. You've seen the guy at the park fly the kite. This is just a heavier kite. It's the apparent wind that's keeping the kite in the air. And it's actually not all that heavy. So the generators, the turbines are in the air on the kite, just like a model airplane, like an electric airplane, and the power is transmitted down the tether.
I guess what I'm curious is, even with the high wind areas where it's been vetted that there's enough sufficient wind in order for it to be cost effective, turbines go up, you do see the turbines not moving sometimes because wind is not coming through. That's true of any geographic region. Sometimes wind won't blow. What happens when the wind doesn't blow?
Well, it's actually going to operate like a quadcopter, if you know what a quadcopter is. It will be able to self-land and self-take off, more like a helicopter. It has electric motors on it that can operate both as generators, consumers of power, or generators of power, and it has a propeller on it. So you can spin it and consume power while you're in the air, or if there's wind, you use the wind to turn the blades.
And this is, sorry, who would be adopting this? Is it small energy generation for residential, or would it be commercial? Or?
It would be commercial scale. You want to be commercial scale. So they would be very large. The question is, how do you get from small to large? So that's why I have this business plan of phasing it in at a self-owned facility.
At what altitude?
Under 500 feet, probably, initially. You can go as high as you want. Logistically, you can go as high as you want. There's FAA issues above 500 feet and below 2,000 feet.
Come on, I see one of these business plans every day. Now, are there any regulatory concerns, permitting requirements, government intervention, challenges that have nothing to do with the technology working?
Our main concern has been with the FAA, and we believe that the FAA will allow us to operate under 500 feet. They already have regulations in place for under 500 feet. So as long as we're under 500 feet, we should be fine. Yeah, there's issues there. There's things to tackle, but it's really an exciting technology, I think.
So on this picture, you sort of draw it like a box kite. So I don't know, is that what you're thinking about, or are we thinking about we're going to have a farm fly like little airplanes that pretty much have generators in them?
Well, that's a box kite or a biplane. There will be multiple engines on each unit, and there will be multiple units on each farm.
And so is the generator technology you're planning to use, is that commercially available, that's light enough, or you still need to do development in the generator itself as well?
They're available at 20 kilowatt or so. A 20 kilowatt motor would weigh about 7 kilograms. Actually, that's not right. About 3 kilograms for a 20 kilowatt motor.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we have a very new technology, and you've had, 180 seconds to hear about it. So, putting yourself in the shoes of the entrepreneur, what would you suggest
So,
You
so
do.
I, as a first market entry, I would look at military applications or remote power. I mean, this is actually the military puts a lot of money here. I wouldn't underestimate how difficult it is actually to fly a kite automatically. I mean, I think there are some competitors that do similar things and think about, what's the benefit of having the generator in the air, and what's your capital that's actually flying around, and what happens if that crashes. And then I think there's definitely a safety concern as you have a whole sort of a farm of these things flying automatically, in the spacing. So how big can it go, and what rural areas are you, and still capture those benefits by the time you're done at your capex versus opex.
Thank you.
You've told us south of 500 feet, which for regulatory purposes makes sense. Please justify, just as a point of feedback, you should be able to justify south of 500 feet from a wind resource standpoint and be able to tell people that you have characterized your operating range of wind resource at some range of locations in the U.S. and therefore it's applicable, blah, 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 blah. You're too shy. I mean, you're way, way, way shy of really good wind resources, and you are, your technology is non-standard for wind generation, so you have some hurdles that you have to clear. I think your idea of buying a wind farm, God bless you, find the money, but buying a wind farm and putting up some of your own hardware is spot on. I compliment you on that strategy. That makes a great deal of sense.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I just think sort of the practical applications of how it just works. So if it's a 500 tether and it's on the top of a Walmart and it needs to land, does it land in someone's backyard? And does some kid steal it or think it's a funny toy or a dog it chews on? I just sort of seeing and how it kind of lands itself. It may work, but have an answer to that, or at least touching it, because it is non-standard. And so there's some initial skepticism I think you'll get from people.
Yeah, I applaud your ambition. I think this is very cool. But my brain is overwhelmed with technical risks, and so I would recommend a sort of multi-phased, do it on the cheap, long-term program to address technical risks, maybe funded by SBRs or government projects, and sort of build up credibility over time, so that people view this as a really viable and credible thing.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
Robert.
you. Great feedback.
Awesome. So to vote for Robert and KiteFarms as your favorite startup tonight, you will send a tweet with #Ultralight and @KiteFarms. Also, don't forget to vote for your favorite panelists. I heard a lot of great, insightful advice on that last round, so thank you very much for that. We are going to take a break in a moment, but before we do that, we're going to hear from our sponsors. So, platinum sponsor today is Shell's GameChanger Group, and Willem is going to talk about that.
So first I'd like to introduce my fellow game changer, Richard Smith, who's in the audience as well. So there's two of us here. So briefly about our program. So GameChanger is really an introduction to Shell for early stage technology entrepreneurs or even people with ideas. So we're looking for people with ideas that can execute on those ideas. It doesn't matter what you've done so far. Typically, we look at the credibility and we screen for simple criteria, which is value, novelty, why Shell, and where there's a doable plan to get the technology to proof of concept, and then it needs to be relevant for Shell. That's why we look at why Shell and border any of our business. So pretty much anyone can apply that can execute good on a good idea. We run a website, shell.com/GameChanger, or you can approach any of us if you're interested in talking about what we do or want to sort of pitch your idea to us individually.
Fantastic. Thanks, Willem. And our gold sponsors today are NYSERDA and Wright, Localis, and Rosenblatt. So Mary's going to talk about NYSERDA.
Okay, even though I'm not an employee of NYSERDA, I do work with them and work for them. We've heard a number of people today talk about technology and gotten advice to get their technology tested. NYSERDA is the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. What they are funded by is the system benefit charge. So for people who have looked at their Con Ed bill, there is a system benefit charge that goes to NYSERDA, which is used to fund energy efficiency programs like rebates for solar installations or solar thermal. And it also, that system benefit charge goes to R&D projects to assist in the feasibility testing and development of new technology. There is also commercialization assistance from NYSERDA to assist people who have come up with new technologies to bring their innovations to market. So the good people to get on their website and look at.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mary. Peter Rothberg, I see in the back, is going to be talking about Reitler, Kalis, and Rosenblatt. Do we have a microphone for him?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Thanks. Hello, everybody. I'm Peter Rothberg. I'm a partner at Reitler, Kalis, and Rosenblatt. We're a proud sponsor of Ultralight Startups, have been for several years. We're a boutique law firm that's very embedded in the venture and startup community here in New York and throughout the Northeast of our country. And many of our clients have been panelists at Ultralight events. One of them is a panelist today. And many of our clients have been presenters throughout the Ultralight program. But let me tell you what we can do for you. We can give you advice on starting your companies and on helping you grow your companies. We can draft the necessary documentation to help you accomplish both of those tasks. We can connect you. This is very important for young companies. We can connect you to our very, very deep group of financial sources, whether they're angel funds, angels, venture funds. We have very deep connections into all of those sources of financing, and we help our clients connect to them. We can provide budgets for all of you because we can provide capped fees. Unlike a lot of other firms, we really can provide capped fees, and that helps you with your budgeting process, which we know is very important for young companies. So you can have a good idea when you're presenting to some of these folks here as to what your legal cost for the period of time that you're going to get financing from them is going to be. So we really try to help in that regard. And one of the most important things that we can do is we can provide you with senior level advice at prices that you can afford. We don't just throw junior associates at you and forget about you. If you're a client of our firm, you have access to our partners at all times. So I'm going to be here for the rest of the program. If anybody wants to talk to me, that would be great. And I'm also going to be going to the bar later as well. So see you later. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Peter. Peter is our attorney here at Ultralight Startups and has been for a long time, so very happy with that. I'm going to point out some of our preferred service providers here who may or may not be in the room today. Jay Malone of Digital X Bridge, Peter Rothberg, who you just heard from Reitler, Kalis, and Rosenblatt, Joaquin Roca from Team Dynamics and Process Consultation. Is Joaquin here? Jack Petrie from Office Lease Center, Joe Chin from SourcePad, who does web design and development, Dan Plotner, who I do see right over here with TriNet, who does benefits, payroll, and HR on demand. So thanks, Dan. And Dave next to him. And some friends of Ultralight. So Seamless has provided the pizza that is some of you have enjoyed and is stacked up over there. So I hope you enjoy more of it at the break. And McAddery Management Strategies. Mac has a session coming up that he would like me to mention. And what is that session?
We're going to do the two-day Master Pitch Workshop at General Assembly on Saturday, December the 1st, continuing to Sunday, December the 2nd. So it should be on their website. Sign up. Come on in. We'll do a before and after of a pitch that didn't work, and transform it to one that does. And we'll give you a plug-and-play pitch deck for you to go back, fix it overnight, bring your deck back in, and it'll be pitch and present. And then we'll do team evaluation. So you get a good hands-on environment within that community at the same time.
Fantastic.
Saturday, December the 1st, 1 to 4, and Sunday, December the 2nd.
December 1st and 2nd, Master Pitch Workshop with Mac Lipscomb. Mac has coached about half of the companies that are presenting here. The other half are coached by Todd Barish in the back of Indicate Media. So with that, we are going to take a 5-minute break, grab some pizza. There are some more seats. I see them all around, and we'll come back for the rest of the pitches. Tinia, you have 3 minutes. When are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready. Hi, my name is Tinia Pina, and I'm the founder and CEO of Re-Nuble. Re-Nuble is changing the way that food processors dispose of their food waste. We partner with corporate food processors and reduce their energy and disposal costs so that they can focus on creating premium services and products for their clients. There are 23,000 food processors in the US, but right now the adoption rate of our technology, which is an anaerobic digester that processes food waste, is low because it's perceived to be difficult to implement and expensive. And that's where Re-Nuble makes a difference. We are developing community-sized organic recycling facilities that are co-located on site of our partners, and this allows us to design and operate these facilities. So how does it work exactly? The food waste that's as a result of production normally sent to landfills, we take this and put it into our anaerobic digester, and it's decomposed into its most natural components over a period of 18 to 22 days. The first component is biogas, and that biogas is then converted into electricity, which then can offset the facility's energy costs through a process called net metering. The second component is a nutrient-rich slurry, which can be created into a conditioned product such as granular or liquid fertilizer. We then sell that green product directly to local agribusiness and turf landscapers. Next slide. We're delivering to a targeted market, and this targeted market an affordable recycling solution that is able to deliver 20 to 40% cost savings at 1/10 the price of our competitors. Our ability to add value across our partners' value chains by operating as an energy generator and an organic fertilizer marketer is unique. And the best part is that we allow our partners to keep their energy savings from their energy output and use that savings to apply towards the financing of the technology.
1 minute.
This allows us to achieve our core goals, which is to establish the connection of environmental performance with financial results and create cleaner communities and healthier food production. My team and I have a combined 25 plus years in financial services, marketing, and engineering, and have developed a unique revenue generation, distribution, and financing plan that allows us to scale our technology partners' existing technology. Right now, we're at seed stage and trying to raise $1 million to develop the sales and marketing as well as distribution pipelines. Thank you.
Thank you.
So is the blue box that was on your first slide, is that a workable prototype or is that a mock-up?
It is. So our technology partner is demonstrating the technology as we speak. We're just pretty much like scaling it and commercializing it for them. But this is the one unit. One unit is able to process 16 tons per day, and it can be expanded to 3 units within one system, and they have a much larger.
So does it run in batch then? So you start at the batch, or you can continuously feed it?
Good question. It's continuous.
And then, so what type of gas cleanup do you need to do? Because you get the biogas is sort of a mixture of CO2, methane, and maybe some other contaminants. So what do you need to clean up, and do you see a difference in gas composition depending on the feed you're putting into the box?
So we still need to kind of just test and find that optimal food waste output and make sure like what's the efficiency with the our potential corporate clients. But right now the efficiency as far as cleaning it is about 64%.
Just to make sure I'm clear on the business model. Sure. You own the asset, the company owns the asset, which one?
The company owns the asset. We're so basically, through our customers, we're able to kind of finance the asset ahead of time through some of the products via like agreements on sales. So I know it's kind of confusing, but anyways, it's not technically owned, and we're still trying to work out the kinks with our technology partner, to be honest with you. But right now, it wouldn't be on our books. It would be on our technology partner's books, which is the manufacturer.
But not the site host.
Oh, no, not until it's actually paid back, which would be usually like a 6 to 14 year payback period.
Okay.
I'm not sure I'm still entirely clear on sort of that model and who owns it or who finances it. But then, and so you're coming up with this material at the end use, you're piping back in the gas to help heat, and then you've got the compost, and then you're selling it as fertilizer?
Yes.
Okay. And who do you sell the fertilizer to, or who's the offtake to?
Local, we're trying to find a direct off-takers, so farmers. There's also contracts with the DOT and agribusiness. We're trying to explore like independent retailers, but it really depends on how much volume we could expect.
Okay. How big are those units?
Think of them as like a trash dumpster receptacle. It's usually around like 10 feet by 40 feet, I believe. Oh, shipping. It's by frac shipping transportation, so it's very modular and easy to transport.
So for this to work, do you have to have like a pure organic waste input? So you could only work, say, for example, with a supermarket that's very careful about what it puts in your machine and what it doesn't?
Not necessarily. So it can be high solids, and it also can be a very wet substance as well. Such as, for instance, a good example would be like a craft food where they have strawberry canning facility. It doesn't have to be a very pure food waste. I mean, there's different compositions, and we would want to optimize what our best rate is depending on the waste.
Yeah, but you can't have a situation where the waste has to be kind of pre-sorted into organic and inorganic waste, or is that what happens?
We would, and we would actually take hold of that. We would take control of that.
You would take control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so some advice. So if you were right now, Tinia, and you are running the company, what would you suggest you do today?
I'd run to the USDA.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe.
What would you do when you're at the USDA?
Ask for money.
This is
They
true.
underwrite a lot of digesters.
Very true.
So
Great.
free money is better than not free money.
Thank you.
6 to 14 year payback is hard to finance.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah, so I think there's sort of a market for organic waste to gas. I'd be paying a lot of attention to the safety aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if this sits on the back of a supermarket and everyone starts dumping in, on the same time you're building this massive bubble of methane that you have to monitor, and see where it goes. I think if that's your payback time, I think you need to increase the energy density of what you're doing somewhat to actually increase that either on the back end, how you use the methane, or make sure you can boost the productivity. Otherwise, it's going to be a tough sell to be that distributed of the unit.
Thank you.
I'm still not clear as to what the financial model is, the business model, whether you own it or they own it. But I think if you all own it and you just sort of have the PPA set up where you're providing the energy back, and they just give you the feedstock and the waste associated with that, I think that would be a better approach than having them pay out up front if it's possible to finance. I mean, it's trickier to figure out a way to finance that, but I think that's a good path to go. And whether you're already doing that or not, I'm not sure. But that would be a suggestion.
Yeah, I actually would love to talk to you more about that afterwards.
Yeah, I think you're doing, a wonderful job of doing something nice for the world, and it's a very lovely story of this sort of virtuous cycle of safe food to safe food through the fertilizer, and. The question for me is, could I prove that's genuine? Or does the fertilizer just go off to God knows where, or, and the food that gets grown with that fertilizer, goes to someplace else? So if I could demonstrate for marketing purposes a really nice and closed ecosystem where this is really functioning, I think that would be wonderful. And the finances, who knows?
Thank you. Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Tinia. So I've been told there's not enough voting going on. Everybody get out your device and start voting some more. So if you would like to vote for Tinia and Re-Nuble, you will send a tweet with #ultralight and @Re-Nuble. And vote for a couple others that you saw earlier today as well. And don't forget to vote for your panelists. We have come up with very handy 2-letter Twitter handles for each of them, so they should be easy to tweet. So next up we have James and Lucidity Lights. And we'll find your slides.
Okay, so hello, my name's James and I'm with Lucidity, and we are literally working to reinvent the light bulb. Just this past October, the US finally started moving down the path to phase out the traditional incandescent light bulb by taking the 100-watt incandescent off the shelf. That's going to be followed in January of 2013 by the 75-watt incandescent, and the 60 and the 41 incandescent comes off the shelf the following year in January of 2014. So you are all going to be asked yourselves when you go to the store, because that light bulb's not going to be there, what do you want in an energy efficient light bulb? Is it this? This is a traditional condensed fluorescent light bulb. It's, number one, ugly, which you can't see unfortunately in this picture. It has a bad reputation of delivering poor light quality. It takes a long time to warm up, and I think consumers feel that they've been duped because the product, while advertised to last up to 7 to 8 years, only really lasts in reality 3 to 4 years. Or do you want this? This is an LED light bulb. Most of you are probably not that familiar with the problems with this because right now those cost anywhere between $20 and $40 per bulb. So that's a big amount for a consumer to swallow. They have their own challenges. One, they have a challenge of matching lighting consistency from bulb to bulb. And then number two, over the life of the bulb, the color will shift towards blue, and it will also decrease in its intensity. So while you might think you're buying an 80 lumen bulb, by the end of its life, it's going to be probably 20 years down the road, 70% as bright as it was when you first bought it. Or do you want something that looks like this? This is what we've developed. Lucidity has developed a light bulb that truly delivers on the promise of a long-term, highly efficient consumer light bulb. It warms up instantly, looks exactly like an incandescent light bulb, provides the same warm, high-quality color, is dimmable, and most importantly, is going to be 80% more efficient than the traditional incandescent, and it will deliver that same high-quality lighting over its 20-year life. And we overcome all of these challenges. Moving forward. So we have a unique opportunity of introducing a new category and a new technology of lighting to the consumer market. We're going to be price competitive with a dimmable CFL and half the cost of an LED and last the same life as an LED. So this is a consumer product. Not surprisingly, we're going to be going through to the normal distribution channels. What's important for you to know as investors, we're going to be delivering that at that price point with an attractive margin to us and an attractive margin to the channel. So, questions?
So it's a very clever way that you've positioned yourself here based on the cost over 20 years. But I as a consumer don't buy light bulbs for 20 years because I generally don't live anywhere more than a few years and couldn't imagine packing up my light bulb and taking them with me.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think it's the problem that is a problem with LEDs or that they're going to have, because they have to go out over 10 years or so to show cost parity with vacuum fluorescence. So is there a way to position this that's sort of more in line with, from a price perspective, with the way consumers think?
Sure. So as I mentioned, if you look at where these products are priced today, a dimmable CFL costs $9 to $11. We're going to be coming in at that price point. The traditional dimmable bulb is your regular way incandescent. Those are going to be gone. So your options are going to be those two products and potentially a halogen, which frankly just isn't anywhere near as energy efficient as these alternatives. If you were to do the 20-year cost on a halogen, it went way off the scale to about 150 to 160. So I didn't really want to offend that product. So.
I don't want to give away your secrets, but is this a magnetic induction lighting system?
Yeah, we're not going to get into the technology, but we're working with we have a very strong technology team. And what we're working on, the challenges, is to get the cost down at the product specifications that we're looking for.
Can I ask you this? Do you have mercury inside of it, and is that a concern for the environment?
This product will be able to be disposed of. we're going to get ROHS certification. We're going to be working through Energy Star and through others to make sure that we're delivering an environmentally responsible product.
Does it screw into the same sockets?
It's going to look exactly like the bulb that I put up on the screen.
Right.
We have working prototypes that look just like that.
Okay, but can I screw it into the same socket?
That's
and it will work?
that's an E26. Yes, it will screw in the same socket.
And it will work.
It will work.
Thank you.
So what's your general manufacturing strategy, and is that going to require a lot of capital?
So we're considering one of two approaches. One is contract manufacturing, or separately. Members of our team have experience in designing in the past several years 4 or 5 different lighting facilities. We think that it would cost us somewhere around $3 to $4 million to put a manufacturing plant in place. It's going to be highly automated, low human capital. So we'd probably consider doing regional facilities to service regional markets.
And so is the bulb technology, is that scalable for different light intensities? Or
yes.
you have a fixed prototype?
Yes, we actually we have an advantage over LEDs that at higher lighting intensities, our cost doesn't go up, whereas LEDs, you have to put more circuitry in there. So it's scalable at higher intensities.
And so you're at energy efficiency parity with LED pretty much?
We're going to be in the middle of LED and CFL.
Right.
Arrun, do you want to ask?
Advice. Well, I haven't really looked at the lighting space very closely, but just based on what some of your comments were, I wonder if the homeowners maybe sort of don't think long term, whether there's another market you can go after. You were looking at big box retail as the market, but universities maybe where they're sort of the time horizon is 20 years perhaps, and they might think about it in those terms. Perhaps that's useful. And then the other, just presentation wise, I don't really care what my light bulb looks like. I care what the light looks like, but the light bulb I don't care. So just in your presentation you were talking about, do I want my light bulb to look like this? I don't really care. I mean, sure, as long as the light's good. So just a comment on the presentation.
Thank you.
Other advice?
If your proposition is that incandescence will go away, there will be no cheap light bulb. There will be just expensive, long duration light bulbs, but we're going to be the best. Then say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well then,
Great.
thank you.
Great.
I mean, I think in the end the consumer will choose with his wallet. So whatever is cheaper on the shelf, if there's no alternative. So I don't think, and people are used to the compact fluorescent. So I think you're still struggling. I think from a marketing perspective, you really have to think about how can you position it, because people know LEDs, they know the other one. And then what's the third one? So what's the story around the lamp? Try to build it, because you're not as energy efficient. So you have to come in a lot cheaper for people to actually pick up on that, just from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, I think it's very ambitious and very interesting, on the surface. I probably wouldn't have the risk-taking profile to want to go sell against Philips and the like in this business. I'd probably, if I had great IP here, and this is all really true and as good as it sounds, I'd probably be partnering with one of the big guys from day zero in terms of getting to scale.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so to vote for Lucidity Lights and James as your favorite startup tonight, you will send a tweet with #Ultralight and @Lucidity Lights. I am again told that there has not been enough voting, so everybody, get out your Twitter. Are you tweeting? Are you guys all tweeting? I'm gonna call on you if you're not. So send some tweets, and don't forget to vote for your panelists as well. Some of them have had awesome advice, and they should be recognized for that. So #Ultralight and the 2-letter Twitter handle of your favorite panelist. So next up we have Derek Grassman of Kohilo Wind, and on deck we have Gail of Algepower. So we're going to pull up Kohilo. Yep.
Please bear with me. I actually decided to scrap my original speech because the 3 minutes is a little intense. Plus, I'm not the greatest speaker. Okay, so, well, all right. So what we have here is a new realistic approach to vertical axis wind turbines. We have, a patented blade and generator system. We actually create a controlled environment. We create a controlled environment within the blade assembly, and we use real fluid dynamics to extract the highest amount of energy out of the wind possible. And this is in turbulent air as well as clean air. And basically what happens is it makes it so we can take our beautiful turbine and put it at a lower altitude on structures that already exist to lower infrastructure costs for our clients. And we can actually extract power on site, at a reasonable cost. We use the least amount of resources possible to extract the highest amount of energy possible. And we're working with a lot of great clients. Like we have the Mennonite farmers that have invested in us, and they are actually taking our turbines and putting them on existing grain silos to power their farms. And this is huge for them because they're not really into energy, and they need the energy to power their farms, but they don't want to be dependent on foreign, companies that are supplying their energy. They would much rather be very independent. So this is their option to get them there. The parts are modular. We isolate all of the failure points so that if there were a failure, it's very easy to fix. We only have 2 moving parts, and then the generators themselves are actually expandable. And the turbine, because of the fluid dynamics that are used, we actually generate power at 3 miles an hour. We actually start moving in 0.5. You can't even record it with an anemometer that has 0 resistance on it. Because what happens is the air comes in, it's compressed within the chamber of the 2 blades, and we utilize lift as well as drag as the blade's coming around. We've created a power stroke that is over 250 degrees of the entire rotation, making it so, a very small portion of that is drag, and the curvature of the blade assembly is actually deflecting the drag, so we have very little drag on the return end and very high energy yield because of the compression and the fluid dynamics as it comes around.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Derek. Thank you.
I could go on forever.
So some questions for Derek.
And yes, there is an international patent.
Not my question, but it's good to know. So these things weigh like a ton?
They weighed very little compared to any turbine on the market. As a matter of fact, about 97% of the turbine is 6061 and 6063 aircraft aluminum, and then it's powder coated for protection from the elements.
Speak into the mic, please.
Sorry.
Hold it right up there.
For protection from the elements, we powder coat the aluminum after it's all welded up and ready to go.
But it's a very heavy thing that actually has lift associated with it. So are there concerns?
What do you mean by that? Because the rotation of the blades being on the vertical axis, the lift has nothing to do with like our horizontal plane that we would normally consider, lift like on an airplane. What it is this is lift being applied to the vertical axis, and the energy through that is being harnessed into the generator, or through the generator, which is also an expandable generator. Like you can buy one of our lower models within a series of models and actually expand on the system, but maintain the original infrastructure. So you'd have the original tower system, you'd have the original base, the original inverters, and anything that you purchased along with it with the options that we offer. But you can buy larger blade systems and more stators and add additional inverters as well to expand. Like say you buy this system for your house or your business, but 10 years from now, you grow, you're using more power. Now you can actually take this system and expand it, minimizing your cost, like, because you don't want to.
Could I cut you off? Because
I'm sorry.
I don't want
Go ahead.
to use it all the time.
Sorry.
Yeah.
How many units are already installed, and what's the power output of each of these? I know you mentioned the Mennonites, others.
Yeah, we have 4 systems that are out, 3 on the Carousel Mall in Syracuse, and then 1 on Oswego State College. Those are 1,000-watt systems. They're 6 foot tall, about 7 feet wide. Those were my original test systems. We have a new round of turbines that are coming out right now. We're building 17 at the moment, and they range from 600 watt up to 35,000. And then our max output is much higher because we actually keep harnessing the energy up to 127 miles an hour.
Jim, did you have a question?
Cost per kilowatt hour?
Cost per kilowatt hour?
Price, cost would be better.
Okay, let's see. There are 3 kilowatt system, depending on the options you purchase, $14,000 to $28,000, and then that's not including any incentives. But I mean, there's a lot of different options and a lot of variables to consider.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'll start giving what I do. I think, you know, like really careful at the market. I mean, if you cover such a huge range, I think it's difficult to say who's really your customer and what type of partnership do you need to truly scale that. You mentioned, you know, you go to farmers, they might be interested in certain scale. I think residential wind, you know, I think there's a lot of competition now. We see, especially around these events, we see a lot of people pitching that they have the cheapest, the most efficient one. So looking for that differentiator and thinking where can this really be deployed and how big is that market and what's the unique integration opportunity you offer with other people. Like, for example, the infrastructure based, if you say, you know, you can take a hit somewhere else and what's the best place to buy this system compared to competitors?
Well, right now we're focused on, oh, I'm sorry. Oh. Sorry.
I would just reiterate what I would want to know from you is your market. Specify in great detail your customer set and why you have a proposition for them. Because as Willem is rightly pointing out, there's so many small wind turbine companies. And where are the small wind turbines? Somebody needs to deliver a proposition. It hadn't been done yet. If you can do it, terrific. Prove it.
Thank you. Great.
You guys have to give something. Go ahead. You're on the spot now.
Well, I mean, I think those, no, honestly, I think those were good comments. I would probably say the same.
Okay. Andrew?
Actionable advice. What would you do if you're there?
Yeah. I think I would really be looking for a niche that I could sell into where this really made a lot of sense. Yeah. Because it's only going to make sense in a very small number of places, given all the energy alternatives people have. And I don't know what that niche is when you go to this kind of configuration. It's kind of interesting that you have a different geometry and you have something that's kind of aesthetically maybe even artistic in its presentation. And so who really wants that? And don't try to make this the be all and end all and sell it as a commodity to everybody. Find those niches that work for you.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Hey, if you're proud of the turbine, show your data.
Oh,
There's
absolutely.
some turbines that put their systems up.
We're working directly with Intratech and Clarkson University, and we are extremely transparent with what we're doing.
So you've got some turbines up on roofs.
Yeah, we're actually putting our new.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Derek.
Thanks very much.
Now, given that we're on the 8th out of 8 pitches, perhaps it's too late for me to mention the reason that I'm being so strict about speaking directly into the mic. Not that you all can't necessarily hear people that are talking loud without a mic, but that the video and all the viewers on YouTube and posterity won't be able to hear you because it's only the microphones that capture your audio, and people that are sitting at home watching us on YouTube right now or in the future won't be able to hear you. So with that, Gail, you have the advantage of being heard into posterity.
And my grandchildren can hear me. Thank you for inviting me here. A lot of public and private money has been invested in research and development of algae over the past few years. With the exception of the fermentation process, all the systems require a lot of land, a lot of water, and just the right climate. This formula is not sustainable nor practical for most of the country. What is really needed is an enclosed, all-year system with a small footprint that feeds on a free or low-cost nutrients and CO2. As a New Yorker, I understand the benefits of building vertically. This led to the development and patenting of Algeponics, a 14-level vertical hydroponic farm with a very small footprint. Algeponics has a lower cost and 10 times greater yields than ponds, raceways, or tubes. To my knowledge, Algeponics is the only system that will grow algae both phototrophically and mixotrophically, scientific terms, in salt and fresh water. Algeponics farms have many other advantages. They're scalable and sustainable. They're beneficial to the environment because they clean waste and large amounts of CO2, and they leave no waste behind. They can be co-located with many sources of industrial and agricultural waste. Clusters of algeponic farms can service a local refinery while using the refinery's waste. Best of all, algeponics can be located almost anywhere. This is important for densely populated areas where most of the biofuel end users are and where land is very expensive. With public and private grants, Algepower has successfully operated a proof of concept pilot system. We're ready to expand to a pre-commercial pilot to optimize the system by testing various wastewaters and algae species. Our build, own, and operate business model is designed to work globally in cooperation with many different private and public enterprises. 1 acre algeponic farm costs $5 to $6 million and will produce 130,000 gallons of oil a year, while remediating 150,000 gallons of water a day. By comparison, raceways require 247 acres to produce the same amount of algae oil as algeponics could do in only 5 acres. Once funded, we will secure management, research team, and a site location, which is important, and attract strategic partners.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Questions?
What's the cost per barrel of oil at which yours is effective versus that? And then also the other question is, the patents, or what is your, you mentioned a whole variety of different things that were interesting. Where is the secret sauce? Is it the, sort of the vertical integration that makes it interesting, or it's the phototropic and mixotropic mix?
It's the whole package. Today, algae is only grown in certain areas and requires tons and tons of land and water. This particular thing will go anywhere. It uses wastewater. We've been using wastewater from anaerobic digesters on dairy farms, which is full of phosphorus and nitrogen, and people want to get rid of that. So the algae grows on that. The fact that it's vertical means that we can have far more productivity in a little footprint than a pond or raceway, and it's a factor of 10, or at least. So it's a whole package. The fact that it's a controlled environment, there's no waste, there's, yeah.
And the cost per barrel? The effective
I don't
cost
know,
per
barrel. We're getting right now between $3 and $4 a gallon. So there's 42, whatever that is. And with, yeah, Shell would know. And we will be bringing the costs down. We rely on either free or low-cost nutrients, and we could get all kinds of benefits from.
So how do you deal with the light penetration if you have a vertical stacked system?
Yeah, mixotropic is no problem. We have, you can see there's an LED light system that we use. It's on photosensors, and the cost, initial cost for the LEDs is high, but the energy cost is very low. So,
and so how do you deal with, like, because they're sitting under a dome and you have that stacked system, so it's sort of a non-sterile system. So how do you deal with contaminants? Are you depending on a single culture, or you have a community culture that you're growing?
We've been growing a single culture of chlorella. Each instance, depending on what people want or what waste they have, would be a little different. We want to experiment with different algae species, but the building itself is under a positive pressure. So it's like a operating room where it does keep out a lot of the contaminants on an ordinary basis. And for other things besides, the highest and best use for algae is for food, actually.
Jim, did you have a question?
It looks like metal and plastic. What's your cost reduction path?
It is metal and plastic. That's all it is, and that's it. The cost of the building is the whole package is about $5 million for the acre. A 2-acre is about $8 million, and the productivity is very high.
Thank you, thank you. So, advice for Gail today. Andrew, what would you say? Well, excuse me, Willem, you've got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I wouldn't, in the pitch, I wouldn't pitch so much, say, land use is scarce, but, whereas there's a lot of sunlight, there's typically deserts, there's not a lot of people living there. There's areas, and I think the DOE has documented there's enough areas where there's water and there's actually land, plus a lot of light. So I think the compactness of the system is not necessarily a selling point. So you really have to be cost driven. They have to get that capital intensity low. And for this type of scale of system, I'd look in chemicals first before I do anything in fuels, because that's where you get more value. Or look at nutraceuticals. Go for a high margin product to get this one dome system working at a chemical play, because you don't need the volume, and your margin is going to be much better.
Yeah, the claim about all climates and all locations is not.
We're growing in Vermont.
Is not a trivial claim. So you may want to be able to elaborate on that a little bit more. I know you have 3 minutes here, but if you say mixotrophic and or heterotrophic and phototrophic,
yeah,
that's helpful. I'm surprised, delighted that chlorella works. But again, to the question about cost reduction path, other than getting volume discounts on plastic sheets or tubes, make a credible case that your costs are going to go down, whatever, at different scale. Lay that out for us in a subsequent presentation.
Right. Good advice.
In addition to that, I would say also just, there was no mention of management, who the team is, and just at least a word. It's 3 minutes. It's, again, tough to kind of pack it all in, but just sort of who's been able to manage a process like this or a plant like this in the past that is credible and that has done this before, I think is important.
Nobody's done.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the area, so I'm just going to give you some general advice, which I don't want to pick on you, but I think it's thematically true of a lot of the presentations here. Even with 3 minutes, we're financial investors, so if somebody's building a plant or a project or some kind and some stuff's going in and some stuff's going out and the capital is required, we'd love to see a financial metric or two to say, what is a simple payback if I build a plant like this, given I can sell oil for so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Thanks, Gail. And thanks to the panel. So we are just going to wrap up here and award our prizes. So now is the time. If you haven't been voting, If you saw something that you liked earlier and saw something you liked even better later, vote for that too. Lots of great feedback here, lots of great actionable advice. Get out those mobile devices. This is your last 20 seconds to vote. So with that, I'm going to give one brief announcement, and that is the next Ultralight Startups event is on Thursday, December 13th, here in New York City. It's at, not at NYU, but at Microsoft's offices near Rockefeller Center. And that's going to be our investor feedback forum, which many of you have maybe been to before, for internet companies. It has nothing to do with energy or clean tech per se. It's just for internet and software companies. So that's Thursday, December 13th. With that, let's see. Contest winners, should I describe the prizes again? Free application to Clean Tech Open Northeast. Presentation to Agrion. Actually, the top winner and the second tier winner get two different presentations to Agrion's network. Free application to Surge Accelerator in Houston, the only energy accelerator that I know of. Afterwards, we're going to go to Murphy and Gonzalez, which is if you walk out the door and you're on that plaza, you kind of turn right, that's left, turn left, and go about 2 blocks down to Murphy and Gonzalez, and there we'll all be having drinks afterwards, and you can chat with our panel. We need to clear out of this room like within about 5 minutes of the end of this, so really all your discussions should take place over drinks at Murphy and Gonzalez, and I'll tell you, they have much better beer than you can be finding right here. So, Michael and Jennifer, our counting team are ready, so big drum roll here. What do we got? Okay. Okay. So here are the winners. And so come on down if you hear your name called. Third place, third favorite startup of the evening. Third favorite, Derek Grassman of Kohilo Wind. Come on down, Derek. All right. Audience choice, second favorite was James Smith of Lucidity Lights. Well done, James. And the audience choice for best pitch tonight is Alan Ray of Re-Nuble. Well done, Alan. Whole list of prizes. And the big prize of audience choice for best panelist today is Willem Rensink of Shell. Thanks, Willem. 1 by 1 vote, I'm told. So we'll see you all in Murphy and Gonzalez. And remember, we had to clear out of this room. Special thanks to Arrun Kapoor, who is very ill on his deathbed and came out anyways.